Hello, everyone. It's Jerry at the Fledge, and welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. And today I am broadcasting from Detour Village, which is at the far east side of the Upper Peninsula before you take the ferry over to Drummond Island, which is why I'm up here this weekend, as I told each of you. Got my Keep Bitcoin Shady shirt on. Thank you, Dustin, for that. And I want to give a shout out to thisent.com. Check them out. They're doing small features about every damn day. And then also check out 517living.com. And that's where we're putting our schedule for the week. So this whole week's schedule is on 517living.com if you want to see who's coming up. So I'm up here in Drummond Island to do an episode with my dad tomorrow on Father's Day of Every Damn Day. But while I was up here, I thought I'd swing by and see our good friend Andy Sinadinos, who will be scooping in here in a second. So we're up here in Detour Village. How you doing today? What you been doing today?
I'm doing good. I just made the drive up here and surprised to find out I'll be on a podcast with you today about every damn day.
Yeah, so sometimes we're juggling guests, and my guest today was feeling a little off and said she didn't want to do it, and then I talked her into it, and then I asked Andy if he'd do it, so he's popped in. We've been trying to schedule the show for about 150 episodes. So
that's true.
I'm really happy to be doing it up here in the shop that you're in. So what do you want to tell us about this place?
About this place in general? Well, it came together where there was a medical marijuana license available, and, you know, the family had come across the family's desk. We got another company. We invest in developing properties, Socrates Investments. One thing led to another, and we invested up here. So behind the license itself, you know, saying it might be worthy investment, we just wanted to do something that was fitting for the area, you know, rustic and kind of retro, back to the days of when they did a lot of copper mining back in the area and all that kind of thing, and just make everyone feel like at home, like they haven't gone nowhere, but also bring 21st century technology into the game when it comes to, you know, tracking inventory and keeping track of things for the state, as they like to keep track of things.
Well, we'll come back to this. We'll come back to the name of where we're at and all of that in a minute. Let's talk about you for a second. Where were you born and raised? Where'd you go to school?
I was born in Lansing, Michigan at St. Lawrence Hospital. Pretty much my first, till about 7 years old, I was raised, if anyone's familiar with the Lansing area, a neighborhood called Old Oaks off of Delta River and Waverly Road, till I was about 7. And back in those times, you were pretty much allowed to run free. I mean, even when you were, I don't know, pretty much as soon as you could walk and toddle down the road, as long as your parents knew you were going over to some neighborhood house or something, it was all fine. And you could go further as you got your tricycles and your bicycles, and you got rid of those tricycle wheels. And it was kind of a quiet, sheltered life in a way, even though you were allowed to run free. So I ran up and down to the Grand River and played in the mud, and all the way up to Delta River and Grand River, the road. And that neighborhood was kind of my little growing up area with all the kids that were there. It was a great time. And other than getting out of the neighborhood, you'd be traveling with your parents, being transported to relatives' house or whatever, and kind of get to know their little neighborhoods.
Where'd you go to school when you were over there? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was called Cumberland Middle School.
Oh, yeah.
You went to 6th grade at that time, was the grade schools, kindergarten through 6. So I went to Cumberland, and then that's when we made the big change, at least for me, it was a big change. We moved into East Lansing, which was even a more free, liberal thinking type of community. Even though I'm only 7, 8 years old, still human beings can pick up on atmospheres and things. And I don't know, I just really came out of my shell at that point. A lot of more people seem to know my last name too.
Oh, you used to be in a shell? I did not ever meet you at that point. I did not know you when you were 7.
I don't know if that's exactly the right word. I like to consider myself fairly decent with words, but no wordsmith by any means. Speak more with a guttural English most of the time.
So, by the way, Andy and I have known each other for, I don't know, 40 years, maybe at least.
Yeah,
more than 40 probably. And sometimes I exaggerate and say 50 and 60 years, but we really have known each other for over 40 years.
Yeah, it seems like, other than real toddler times, seems like pretty much our lifetime.
Yeah. So what happened in East Lansing?
As far as coming to town, it's just more kids that were even in the neighborhood. And the neighborhood really was all of East Lansing. That's kind of where things expanded. So I don't know if I want to say I was in a shell, but I was more shy. You're in a smaller neighborhood. You haven't met as many people. You know, you normally trust your parents.
Yeah.
I remember I didn't like being in anyone else's car when I was little with anyone else's parents driving. I didn't trust them. But I got out of that, as if you want to call it a shell or non-trusting
Whatever
people,
you want to call it.
when I got about 8 years old. That's when I really wanted to push boundaries of all kinds.
So what, you and I have a common path in wrestling.
Yeah.
What got you into wrestling? And when did you start wrestling? Before that or around that time?
Well, I think from the minute I could start walking and comprehending, my dad was a 2-time national champ, actually 2-time state champ at Eastern High School, where Jerry was grew up and made his claim to fame as far as high school wrestling, and that's where my father and his generation came through. What was the question again? Oh, how did I get into it?
When did you start? How'd you get into wrestling?
Well, so because of that, being that he went to Michigan State, 2-time national champ, I never really remember him when I was little saying anything about needing to be a wrestler, but I think it was natural coming from an athletic background. All of his friends were either had been somewhat in the pros or, top national caliber athletes. You heard a lot about how to keep your balance and agility, and whether you're being pushed around or tumbled around or taught holds or moves, or how to just give and take with my little brother. So pretty much from the beginning, I was taught how to wrestle.
Yeah. I learned on a shag rug floor myself.
Sure, absolutely.
So who's on your shirt, by the way?
This is a friend of both mine and Jerry's. We all kind of grew up at the same time together. This is Kevin Jackson. He's one of the guys that, I guess, when you're trying to be the best, which a lot of us were out of Lansing, it really was a big wrestling area as far as mecca for wrestling, kind of like a lot of people know Iowa is, so on and so forth. So there was a lot of us around, and Kevin was one of them, and he was able to push his way all the way through, sustain through whatever injuries and whatever trials and tribulations life brings you. And he was able to, not pull the national championships off. He got second, I think, twice, but he did end up pulling a couple world championships off and an Olympic championship. And I'm sure if you really look deeper in there, he might even got a Pan Am game in there or two.
Oh, I think he did, for sure. Yeah. And so he's another Lansing Eastern wrestler as well.
Yeah, we all banged heads together. I mean, me and Kevin practiced day in and day out from time to time when I was in his room or he was in our room. Definitely banged heads a little bit.
So your dad's a couple-time national champion. Your high school wrestling coach. Tell us about him.
Well, really, I've had 4 of them, technically.
Oh, okay.
My first one was a great, great gentleman by the name of Mario Torres. I think his real background and forte was in weightlifting, powerlifting, the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. But he was a teacher at the time that I came in his freshman year, and solid foundational wrestler, not highly technical the background I came from, but a very good guy, run a good practice. And, technically that team we had there, the athletes on that team, Jerry,
Yeah.
that should have been a state championship team. We really had that kind of athleticism on that team.
So
Steve Maidlow was the heavyweight on that team.
Oh, that's
He went on to play pro linebacker for about 10 years there in the NFL.
So who was your coach after that?
Coach after that was John Rollins.
Oh man, I haven't heard that name. We're going to be talking about John Rollins tomorrow on the show.
I'm sure you will.
And I can't believe you just brought it up. Yeah.
Yeah, boy, what a fire plug. That guy, I haven't seen him, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 years, but he don't look no different. Maybe a little more gray, but he was like an upside down tree trunk.
Yes, he's very stocky.
Yeah, oh man.
Very difficult to wrestle.
Oh God, I would have hated to be someone who had to wrestle that guy.
Yeah.
What a tank.
So then who's next?
Well, I got to give him a little dues.
Oh, yeah, please.
Because this guy really pushed me beyond. I mean, he pushed me physically, drilling wise. And even after I dislocated my shoulder, back then there was no stopping or laying off. It was like live over the pain, and that's the way you were raised. Actually, we probably come from the last of that type of thinking.
Yeah, they changed a lot after we had graduated.
Yeah, you destroy your body and you smash your head and you do whatever you do to accomplish your goals, and it doesn't matter, chips fall where they may, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
But he pushed me hard for 3 weeks where I couldn't actually go full contact, and he became my drill partner, and he had to be 50, 60 then.
I know. He's got to be super old right now.
And he just pushed me hard, and he kept me in it, even though I was wrestling basically with one arm, because my arm would get jerked out of joint very first match for the regionals in the States. But he pushed me enough where I was in good enough condition, and I was able to, go through my move second nature, at least, I don't know, reach up, not place, but reach up into the whatever it is, quarterfinals before you get put out or whatever of the wrestlebacks.
Yeah.
But that put me in the ball game where it wasn't like I wasn't out of the ball game, but you're in a new atmosphere. In my sophomore year, you're with a new group of kids. Everyone's older than you, and he put me right in the hunt of things from there.
Yeah. So then who was next?
Marty Jones. He was a graduate of Michigan State. I think he won the Big Tens a year. I don't know how much he did nationally, but I believe he was an All-American. Young guy, good guy. So, like having any young coaches, the team was probably a little more freer with their playfulness and stuff. And, it was a joy to have him as a coach. And then in the end result, I think my dad saw that if I was really going to accomplish anything, because I think I broke my arm that year. I don't know, but I never did have full seasons anyway. So actually that would have been my senior year. So I guess I just rode off of the year before, me, Marty, and Jim Howard, another one of graduates from Eastern. Jim Howard, I think he was the heavyweight for Eastern, was the assistant coach. So we just had an enjoyable season, a lot of laughs, having a coach that's more at your peer level where you kind of can relate with each other. And I had a good year that year, beat up on everybody except that Tommy Churchard kid. Well, I mean, I beat up on him, but I guess
Churchard. I haven't heard that name in a long time.
I beat up on him in the regionals. I wrecked his undefeated record. And he was like 38 pins and 42 victories. I don't know if he had the Sports Illustrated article, but he had some Michigan Magazine article about him and undefeated. And I think because I hadn't wrestled much, I had like some record of 7-0. Maybe I had some conference matches and
going into the regionals.
and some district matches. And I think that year was the year we did a short district. You only wrestled off. You didn't wrestle the.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, that one.
That was before my time. You're a lot older than me.
So I didn't have a lot of matches anyway.
He's 2 years older.
I might have been like 0-7. So I don't think this kid knew anything about me, or his coaches didn't know nothing about me. So I caught him off guard. Really took it to him, and he was pretty pissed off. So he took it to me in the state meet for the first period, and then I beat him back for the second and third, but I couldn't catch up.
Yeah.
So I took second that year with Marty Jones, and then we rolled into my senior year. Marty was still the coach. It's that we hired Don Beam to work with us.
And Don eventually became, I thought he was the coach back then.
He had been the head coach for many years prior to me coming to East Lansing. And like you were asking, how long had I been wrestling? Well, from a toddler and then different series of life. YMCA came up, wrestled with Don Profit, who ran that program. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but another really inspirational guy that took a lot of the youth into a different orbit. And I'll tell you who was on that team. I'm kind of reverting a little bit here for you, but this would have been grade school after I was to the point of wrestling and out there in the leagues at 8 years old. On that team was T.C. Walters, and he had to be he couldn't have been but 4 years old and 60 pounds at the most. Yeah. No, I wrestled at 65 was my first thing. So T.C. had to been 35 pounds or something. And then you had both Kerr brothers, Mike and Pat. You had the Fleeces, Jeff and his cousin. I can't remember what the cousin's name was. Gifford Owens would have been one of the oldest ones. Kenneth.
What's up, Gifford Owens, if you ever watch this?
Kenneth, I can't remember his last name. He was the very oldest. And there was a couple other groups, and these guys all went on to either be state champions or place in the states or do things in college, what have you, all Americans. But they all came out of that one small group, and it really was one of the first really teams outside of like a high school or something. First real club teams for the area back in 69, 70. That was Don Profit.
Okay.
And we went on in high school, of course, wrestled with Beam moving into the neighborhood because Beam was the high school coach at the time. Okay. So I was in and out wrestling with the 98 pounders at 60 pounds, 70 pounds, 80 pounds. And
so Don Beam, tell us about him. He was second in the Olympics?
Yeah, I think he took, silver medals in the Olympics, or he took it bronze on another time.
Oh, yeah, he was there twice, right?
And he won a world game, and that was like a 65, 69, 72, right around that decade. He won some things and placed in the Olympics, won some worlds, won a Pan Am, definitely won a Pan Am, I believe. And he was basically, again, come out of Michigan State like my father. Was your father went to Michigan State or?
No, he went to Northern Michigan on a hockey scholarship because they didn't have wrestling scholarships.
Okay, but his father and mine came out of Eastern High School, and brothers and siblings and things. And then Don came from, I can't remember if it was. I think it was out east. Was it out east or out west?
Oh, so I think it was out east. Because I always mix him. I thought he went to Everett, but I always mix him up with Greg Johnson.
Greg Johnson, another bear of a guy. But exposure to all of these people and growing up in a university town, you got a lot of exposure to the world. The world basically came to you, whether it was intellectually or athletically. So, it was a great time to grow up through the 70s and 80s. And Don kind of was the final hired coach because we knew at the time that year I really hadn't wrestled at all. I wasn't allowed to wrestle. I was basically blackballed from every gym because nobody wanted to take a chance. So what's the word when you break a NCAA rule or whatever?
Oh, like a Title IX or whatever it is now.
They didn't want to break compliances or rules because I had an athletic director who didn't like me very much, and I hadn't had the grades my senior year. So he called everyone up and told them, don't let me in their rooms. And so anyway, I made grades just before the league meet. And, at that point I wrestled, but, we knew that nothing against Marty, but Marty, we needed to tailor something exactly for me if I was going to make, a run at the state championship. Because I hadn't done any road work, I hadn't done nothing, hadn't done no training other than beating up on my little brother in the basement on the cinder block floor.
So I got to turn this thing off.
Look at this. You're interviewing me, you got phone calls coming in.
Yeah, that's a guy trying to get into NA, so I'm going to have to let him in a second. I'm up north, and some people are still trying to use the Fledge. So on the back of this computer, and we're going to go through this real quick, it says Lansing raised me. And when I talk about that, I talk about the teachers, the mentors, the parents, the neighborhood people. But in a lot of ways, it's the coaches. And like you were saying, the world kind of comes to us. How many Olympians have we been fortunate enough to know have been in our lives? I mean, we don't want to list them all out right now, but it's countless.
Yeah, it is.
And
countless.
It's just, I'm always shocked when I guess I realized at some point that's not necessarily normal, right?
Yeah,
not every kid gets that experience,
Yeah, I don't know when I came to that realization. It was obviously more in my adult age, but right down to music classes. You're going to have great grade school. In grade school, we had violin and viola and stuff, specialty classes you could volunteer to take. My gym teacher for middle school, his name was, Mr. Pollard. I'm trying to think of his first name. Pretty sure he won some Big Tens, track and field, high hurdles. So I don't think there was pros back then. I'm not sure exactly what he did internationally or nationally, but, great high hurdler, the technical teachings that you would get just on physically how to approach a high hurdle and get over it. And think about me, I'm 5'6" at best with a real short inseam of 28 inches. You better have one real good coach teaching you real technically, if you want to stay a man going over a high hurdle with that short of an inseam. If you get my drift, you might be dragging something behind. So yeah, we were exposed to some of the greatest scholar, warrior athletes, I guess, if you'd want to say. And it was countless.
Yeah. So what's something you do every damn day to kind of push things forward for you, whether it's up here in the shop or anything else you're working on? I know we talk about wrestling all the time and would love to get some mats in the Fledge, which I had, help me. Our boy came in the other day on the show. I'm so sorry I'm forgetting your name right now. I don't mean to forget your name.
What school?
Actually, I don't know what school he went
Jerry.
to. Shane Tisdale.
Oh, Shane, sure. Grand Ledge.
Yeah.
Real tenacious competitor.
Yeah. So we're trying to get some mats in the Fledge so we can at least roll around a little bit. So, but what's something you do every damn day to push your needle forward?
Well, to be honest, every damn day right now, I'm just living in the present. What keeps me going is the fact that anything needs to be done or I need to address anything. Because right now I haven't slept a lot, so thinking about the past or the future is really here and gone as quick as I think about it. So for the moment, it's the fact that I know the door is going to open up at 10 o'clock or Friday payroll needs to be made, things that I just have to do or need to do, or the phone rings and you make a commitment to somebody. They say, can you do something? And I say, sure, I can do that for you. Now I'm committed. That keeps me going. That, your word, my word keeps me going. When I give someone my word, I don't want to break it for nothing. So making commitments keeps me going.
Yeah.
What gets me out of bed in the morning is a big bridge and a big stretch and a big Tarzan yell to wake me up.
every morning? A
Sure.
big Tarzan yell?
Big Tarzan yell with a big arch back, screaming as loud as I can to shake every cobweb out.
Yeah.
Then ice cold water to finish the shower off.
You still do that?
Heck yeah.
So we daisy chain these shows together, and yesterday on the show I had an older woman who is going through the journey of recovery. So she's been off from crack for about 4 years. And her question for you is, with what you have going on up here or anything in your life, what are you doing for people that are in recovery? Or what do you think about that? What could you do? Or do you want to do?
From a business perspective or a personal level?
Whichever you'd like to answer that with.
Well, from a business perspective, and this would be just, and again, I think from your situation, probably it wouldn't work as much for you. Again, everyone's got to know themselves in life, because I'm a big proponent on taking responsibility for yourself. Now, of course, that doesn't mean we don't all need help. Everybody needs help. Again, this particular place here, that, my end of it was my creation here to really get it up and laid out in a very relaxed setting for people for the marijuana licenses or the medical marijuana registered patients. So again, you need to know yourself, but for maybe the people who have the narcotic problem, the prescription drugs, marijuana has always been kind of a helpful way to ease them off, for the people with PTSD, to help give them a little more relaxation or ease them off of what really drives them to why they've been using these other things that maybe, are more destructive to the body, whether it's physically or intellectually damaging or even spiritually damaged. Because Lord knows, when you're not thinking straight, you can damage your spirit real easy by doing things that you maybe would never do when right-minded thinking. So I'm not sure if marijuana would be a helpful thing for you, or it'd be something that would lead you back, because, causing an uninhibited thing. Personally, what I do for people, if I'm on a personal level with them, whether I've just met them or not, I spend whatever time I can to get them by whatever the hang up is. The biggest thing I've always felt that I could say to them is, you need to think for yourself. And all I can say is ask yourself one question. One question: do I want to go back to where I was? And we always know that place you're fighting to be from, you don't want to be there, because it's a place where you say the hell with life and you don't care about anything, and the hell with responsibility. Something along those lines is going on in your mind, typically with the majority of people, why they say the hell with it. So that's really my question to the person. Before you go back there, ask yourself that one question. Are you really going to say the hell with it? And I guess if your answer is the hell with it, I don't give a shit about nothing in life, then I guess you're going to do what you're going to do. Yeah. Nobody can take a horse of water and make it drink. But if the answer is, and I think 99 times out of 100, if a person's at least asking that question to themselves, the answer is going to be no. I don't want to not give a hell about life. I don't want to quit. And that should be just enough to push you away for the second or two it takes to get past that moment.
Yeah. I love these answers. I mean, I completely believe in harm reduction. So if you can get off even alcohol, which is very destructive, and replace it with marijuana, you're in a great, path forward. But I also love what you said, because sometimes, anything can trigger some people. It's just they're addicted to just having substances poured over their problems, right?
Yeah. I mean, one person's escape is another person's reality. I mean, there's a lot of ways to say things. So yeah. Anything can be an escape. And I'm a Greek, so there's two things I believe in. Choose your words carefully, and I hope I've done that today. And, there's deprivation and there's excess. Everything in moderation.
That's right.
And, if you're self-aware and you know yourself and you know what that right moderation is for you to get by in life,
Yeah. I think that, she talked about how she's making it this time. She's been in rehab 23 times. And this time she really learned to be in the moment and take every single day asking herself that question.
Oh.
I mean, you predicted exactly or are stating what she said yesterday without watching that show. And that's what's working for her.
That's reinforcement for you. If someone else thinks the same way, where they came from a different place, and that reinforces you're on the right track then. Assuming I know what the hell I'm talking about.
I think you know what you're talking about, but I'm not sure that works all the time with, let's say, politics, for example. There's a lot of Trump signs up here, man.
Guaranteed, once you get north of, I don't know, Claire?
I would say Saginaw Street. Tomorrow on the show, I'm up here for Father's Day. I'm at my dad's place over on Drummond Island, so he'll be on the show. You know him. What question would you like me to pass on to Mr. Monty Norris?
Who is the most inspirational guy throughout your life? Thick and thin, up and down. And if it was your parents or something along those lines, cool, state it. But I'm kind of looking for that other person that really kicked you into a realm that maybe you hadn't thought about, or pushed you over that hurdle that you were not aware of yet. But once you were past it, you knew who you were or where you were headed, and just somebody who played a part to really inspire you.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear that, because I know he's probably going to start with like my grandfather, who was, wounded in Normandy, made it. They put him back in, got wounded again in Northern Africa and stuff like that. But I'm going to be very curious on who he says that is. What about you?
My inspiration?
Yeah.
Well, of course, my dad, and just moving into East Lansing, which I was alluding to earlier. Apparently, a lot of people knew my last name. That was pretty inspiring, because anytime they heard my name, they were ready to let me go. No one was going to stop me. That was kind of a release for me. But my biggest inspiration, who was outside of blood, and again, there was many of them. So if any of you are seeing this, you know if you inspired me or around. But I have to say, Grady Penninger, he had a host of stories about many inspirational people. So him in himself and his stories of inspiration was some of the greatest inspiration for me my whole life. I still feed and live off of many of these stories.
Yeah. I've got a story of Grady, but I'm not going to tell it.
Not today, anyway.
Not today, anyway. I've got some words: happiness, sadness, joy, or hope. Which word would you like to talk about?
Happiness, sadness, joy, or hope.
Yeah.
Well, you got to always have hope, but let's talk about joy.
Talk about joy? All right. What does joy mean to you?
Existing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Contentment. Being. All of these things are joyful to me. The fact that I exist and I can be and appreciate, I find joy in all the little things. I'm sure everyone's heard the phrase, take time to smell the roses. Man, somewhere along the line, everything to me is roses. The change of color and texture and the plants, or a storm rolling in when it's a beautiful day out, and the next thing you know, the sky flips around, the wind blows, and leaves rustle, and stuff's flying through the air, and rain's flying. I'm smelling the rose. It's just a change of things. I'm not ducking my head, fighting it. I want to embrace what's coming. That's joy to me. Embracing life. That's joy.
Do you think you've had a lot of success in that? Embracing life?
Hell yeah. Every second of it.
You think you're settling down?
Only And I don't want to say this because, I believe you can breathe things into life. Only because of age. I ain't going to run under a 40-yard dash under 5 seconds anymore.
Yeah.
But I can get pretty close to 4.9. I'm not going to run through here and do somersaults and tumble, but if I get knocked off a cliff and I got a 40-foot drop, you can bet your ass every cat acrobatic that I know from instinct will come out. I won't miss a beat of my agility for that split second. But that's the only thing that's slowing me down. And that's the only reason I am slowing down is because of age.
What was it, about 3 years ago? We were rolling around the mats in Grand Ledge.
Yeah.
And you couldn't even lift your arm still, right? Can you lift your arm?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, forget I said that, everyone.
I can cheat because here, that's the rotation. I can shrug and I can lean and I get to that top shelf if I need to. You always got to be able to compensate in life.
So, all right, we're going to start wrapping this up. We got Mark Paletti.
Hey, Mark, what's happening?
Natural man.
I need you to jerk on my neck. That's another injury. You helped me out with that one.
So, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for showing our place, or the place. We didn't show it as much, but I've got some photos and some websites and stuff like that.
See my beautiful showpiece? I got 4 of them here.
You like that Mine Chefs, don't you? They are beautiful. And this is a great place. So if you're ever coming to Drummond Island or Detour Village or whatever, it's right on the corner when you're going down to the ferry. And looks like it's going to be a pretty sweet place once you get the crowd back up here for the tourism and all that, right?
Sure.
So,
I think everyone's getting out moving a little more now that we're free. And
you've had a pretty steady stream since I've been here, the last hour and a half or so.
Yeah, I think people consistently come in here. The more people know about us, the better. And if any of you all stop by and like the place and you think they're worthy of a Google review.
Oh, I'll give you a Google review.
All right,
We bought a little glass and little of your nature zone, or what the Only by Nature, right?
Yeah.
So
Only by Nature Green Living Emporium. They are licensed for the medical and the adult use of marijuana, but it's more than that. It's a true emporium boutique. Yeah, tomato.
It's a great vibe. We bought a couple gifts here too. So, but I can't say what those are because we'll be bringing them home we want to surprise people. So tomorrow on the show, I've got my dad. It's Father's Day. We'll be broadcasting from Drummond Island. And so that'll be tomorrow at 2, every damn day at 2. Look at 517living.com if you want to see the schedule. And what would you like to take us out with, Mr. Sinadinos?
Some thoughts? Boy, I thought I covered some pretty good thoughts there.
You did. It could be deuces. It could be.
Yeah, life's beautiful. I mean, whenever it's not the old saying, man, look at the other guy. I was mad because I didn't have any shoes. That's maybe one out of the Bible. It doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or not. Some of these are good thoughts. I was mad because I didn't have any shoes until I looked across at the guy who didn't have any feet. There's always somebody worse off. There's always somebody bigger and stronger. Try and be content with what you have. Strive for more. I'm a perfectionist, but I know it's unobtainable. So strive for more. Be content with what you have. And when you have more, you'll be content with that. But if you ain't content with what you have, you'll never be content with more. That's my food for thought.
And I'm going to just end with happy Juneteenth to everyone, and have a great rest of your weekend. Have a great Father's Day weekend, all you fathers out there. And Andy, thank you so very much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jerry.
You.
Take care.